Hey, college wrestling fans, it's JT1Wrestle here, and we are literally not too far away at all from the 2025 2026 collegiate wrestling season. And if you're like me, you're excited because you're going to see some great opens and some great dual meets. But before we even get started in team versus team and wrestlers from this school versus wrestlers from that school, we got to talk about wrestle-offs because there's going to be some great wrestling between two guys on the same team, duking it out to see who is going to be the varsity starter. So today we're going to take a look at NCAA Division I, both the 125-pound weight class and the 133-pound weight class. We're going to look at the best wrestle-offs in these two weight classes in NCAA Division I. So let's start off at the University of Iowa. Now, being near Iowa City, I already know that the black and gold faithful are extremely excited about Dean Peterson, and they pretty much already have him, penciled in as the starter, as they should. There's good reason to be excited about Peterson. We're talking about a guy that won the Midlands title last year, finished one match away from being an NCAA Division I All-American, and is so far seventh, fifth, sixth at the Big Ten championships, and probably above anything else owns a 4-1 win over Penn State's Luke Liliendahl, who was the NCAA Division I bronze medalist last year. So, like I said, good reason to be excited about him. With that said, I do think that Joey Cruz is going to give him a good match. Cruz is no pushover, guys. We're talking about a guy that was an NCAA Division I qualifier. He has a 6-5 win over Brendan McCrone of Ohio State, and more impressively, he has an 8-2 decision over Nicolar Rivera of Wisconsin, who, may I add, finished in the exact same place that Dean Peterson finished last season, top 12 at the NCAAs. So overall, JT1Wrestle is picking Peterson to win that match, but I don't think it's going to be the shoe in that people are making it out to be. I think that Cruz is going to make Peterson earn that spot. Moving on, we're going to go over to Cornell University. This is also 125 pounds. We're looking at Marcello Milani taking on Greg Diakomihalis. Now, last year, Milani took third at the Ivy League and also had an eighth place finish at Cliff Keen, Las Vegas, which I consider to be very impressive for the simple fact that Cliff Keen can oftentimes be just as tough, maybe even sometimes tougher than the NCAA Division I tournament itself. And why do I say that? Because we had it last year, we've had it the year before that, and it'll happen again this season where someone fails to place at Cliff Keen, who does make NCAA All American honors later on in the season. This is Greg Diakomahalis' last season. Now, don't want to put anybody down here. I hope not to sound negative when I say this, but it can't be easy being the younger brother of Yanni Diakomahalis, a guy that won 4 NCAA Division I titles. Greg has yet to do anything in his career, and this is his last shot to do so. So, as a senior this year, with the opportunity to be varsity, and let's also keep in mind, officially last year, he does own a 4-1 sudden victory over Milani. I think if Greg can win the wrestle off, I think he has the talent to be an Ivy League champion this year, which I think would be something really good for him. And if Milani is to win the wrestle off, of course, he's going to continue to build on a career that he already started making a lot of accomplishments and credentials last year. So I'm going to stick with the Ivy League here real quick. I'm going to move on to Princeton University, where we have Mark Anthony McGowan taking on Ethan Rivera for the 125-pound spot. A lot of people like to point at round two of the NCAA championships last year, where Mark Anthony McGowan was this close to defeating the eventual NCAA Division I champion, Vince Robinson of North Carolina State. Along with that match, we're talking about the Ivy League champion, and McGowan also placed fifth at the Midlands. The reason I think that this could be a good wrestle off is Rivera, among other credentials and accomplishments, nearly majored, who we just got through talking about at Cornell, Marcello Milani, 8-1. So I do think we're going to have a good wrestle off here with McGowan and Rivera at Princeton. Next, still going to stay at 125 pounds. We're going to talk about someone that I feel is being severely overlooked, severely disrespected. I think a lot of people are really excited. I know Cradle Zone, for example, someone, if you don't follow him on Twitter, I highly recommend it. Oklahoma Sooner wrestling fans, number one fan, uh, is very excited, as he should be, about Barrick Jordan. Barrick Jordan went 14-3 last year, got seventh at the Southern Scuffle. But I think, man, people are overlooking Conrad Hendrickson, who just came off a red shirt. I'll put it to you like this: Hendrickson owns a 6-4 victory over Jet Strickenberger, who not only finished one match away from being an All American last year, he was the Big 12 champ. And Hendrickson also owns another impressive win, a 7-6 victory over Trevor Anderson of Northern Iowa, who was also one match away from being an All American last year. So my thinking here is not that he is going to beat Jordan. I'm not saying that. But this idea that Hendrickson can't beat Jordan, I don't think so. I think he can beat Jordan. And I think that Conrad Hendrickson versus Barrick Jordan, University of Oklahoma, is going to be a phenomenal wrestle off. One that I'm looking very forward to. Probably the match at 125 wrestle offs NCAA Division I look forward to the most. Now, the last one at 125 pounds that I think is very interesting will be at Gardner Webb, between Tyson Lane and, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this name wrong, Jeff Jacami. And actually, forgive me if I'm pronouncing anybody's name wrong, because as a 40-year-old man, for years and years, I've been called Stefan Stonebracker by multiple people when my name is Steven Stonebreaker. So trust me, the hair stands up on the back of my neck anytime anybody calls me Stefan. So if I'm pronouncing anybody's name wrong, sincerely and genuinely, may I say, I am sorry, not my intention. Last season, Tyson Lane had a huge upset at the Southern Conference to make the finals. He ended up defeating Anthony Moulton of Campbell in order to eventually become a SoCon runner-up. He lost in the finals to the eventual champion Galen Sims by a score of 6-4, and then he also had another loss to him earlier in the season, 7-6. The reason I bring that up is because Jacami, who has faced, unfortunately, a lot of injuries and other mishaps during his career. He actually beat Sims earlier in the season 4-2, and then also Jacami placed eighth at the Southern Scuffle. So I think this is going to be a really good wrestle off. I realize that just because A beats B and then C beats A, but B beats C doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, there's contrast of styles, so on and so forth. But I'm anxious to see who wins this wrestle off between Lane and Jacami. I think it's gonna be a really really good one. And that does it for me at 125 pounds, NCAA Division One. Now I'm gonna move on up to 133 pounds. And there's not a lot of wrestle offs that are really sticking out to me, but there's one that really, really, really sticks out to me, and that's Ohio State. We have Ben Davino taking on Nick Buzakis. This is probably going to be one of the best wrestle offs, not only at 133 pounds, but in NCAA Division One. Period. We got Buzakis, who has been twice back to back third place finishes at Cliff Keen, Las Vegas. He was also third at the Big Tens last year, and he was one match away from being an All American. This does not sound like the kind of guy that's going to give up his spot and sit on the bench this year. But Davino, as a redshirt last year, went 19-1. He won the Lehman Open at Franklin and Marshall, and he took third at the Midlands. If that's not enough to convince you, may I also add, officially, he owns a 5-3 decision over Buzakis. That means with these two extremely talented guys, One of these guys is riding the bench this year, which seems insane. But I'm looking very forward to that wrestle off. I'll say this: whoever wins the wrestle off between Davino and Buzakis, that's going to be one of the toughest matches they wrestle this year. So that's it for JT1 so far. We're going to look at some other weight classes, some other divisions, but those are the best wrestle offs I can tell you about for 125 pounds and 133 pounds NCAA Division I.